Hello, everyone. My name is Ole Kagan, and I'm the Community Engagement Coordinator with LA County Library, and I welcome you to What's Up with Cover Letters. And now I'd like to tell you a little bit about the Work Ready program. Work Ready has been going since December of 2020, and it was originally designed to help those affected by COVID to get a job or improve your work situation, which means get a raise or change careers or just long-term career planning. And now it's meant to help all LA County job seekers. And we're doing that in 3 ways. Number 1, we have laptops and Wi-Fi hotspots, so a computer and the internet available for you out of 20 library locations. And you can find those by going to lacountylibrary.org/work-ready, or click on the box on the main page that says Work Ready. The second way is we're doing events just like this one about all sorts of work-related topics, anything from cover letters, job interviews, resumes, workplace communication, and all of the events that we've done in the past, it's probably 50 or 60 events at this point, are on our YouTube channel. So if you're interested in any of those topics and beyond, we've got that for you, and you can watch those programs. Not live, but still worthwhile. I'm going to post a link to that playlist on YouTube for you so that you can check those out. It's called the Work and Career playlist on our channel. And of course, on our channel, you can also watch all kinds of other stuff. All right, let me post that here. And then the third way that Work Ready is assisting job seekers in LA County is by purchasing the latest and greatest work-related books, ebooks, audiobooks. You can get those books by requesting them via our catalog and going to your local library location, picking them up, or you can go to Overdrive or Hoopla and get work-related materials right from the comfort of your chair. And of course, if you're interested in other virtual or in-person library events, head over to lacountylibrary.org and click the events link on the upper right-hand side. If you hover over that, you get the virtual events. If you click that, you get all the events that we have going on at any of our 85 library locations. And today's program is being presented by me, Ole Kagan, Community Engagement Coordinator for LA County Library, and Ana Silvia Torres, Adult Services Librarian for Adult and Digital Services. Hey, Ana Silvia.
Hey, Oleg.
Today, we're going to be telling you what's up with cover letters. I'm going to bring up the presentation, and we're going to get into it. The interesting thing about the cover letters, Ana Silvia and I were talking about this the other day, is that they are, while being extremely important, cover letters are not the most exciting thing to talk about.
Yeah, so we'll do our best.
We'll do our best. The thing, though, is while they're not that exciting to talk about, they're really important in the sense of a job search. Cover letter, resume, interview, these things all go together, usually in that order. And while they're not exciting to talk about, cover letters are actually really interesting to read. And the reason for that is because it shows you who the person who writing them is, the opportunity that a person has to really speak in their own voice. And that's just one of the facts about cover letters that we're going to cover as we get into today's program. So the description of today's event: cover letters are a long-standing partner of resumes. They expand an applicant's chance to share their qualifications and motivations. We're going to tell you how to write a good one. We're going to explain if they're still relevant. Spoiler alert, yes, they are. And We're going to answer those questions and more. So if you do have questions during the presentation, by all means, please place them in the Q&A and we'll get to them at the end of the program. And now Anna Sylvia is going to tell you about our program's objectives.
By the end of this presentation, we hope that you'll be able to explain the purpose of a cover letter. We'll also talk about the cover letter format. So you'll be able to use the correct cover letter format, and you'll be able to identify and access the library's job-seeking resources.
So those are our program objectives.
We'll also be covering the 5 W's of cover letters: formatting, best practices, library resources, and we'll conclude with your questions.
Perfect. Thanks, Anna Sylvia. And absolutely, by the end of today, you should feel comfortable writing your cover letter and submitting them, and getting those interviews. So let's get into the 5 W's. The first is, what is a cover letter? Now, most people know approximately what this is, but if you don't, think about a cover letter as your introduction to the hiring manager. Imagine that you're at a professional conference. You don't go up to a hiring manager, somebody you see far away, say, I want to work for that company, and then I know they have a job opening. You don't just come up to them and go, hi, have experience, graduated this year, worked at XYZ Corp from 1997 to 2001, worked from YGF Corp from in 2001 to 2004. They're going to look at you like, wait, what? Instead, you might come up to that person and go, hi, so-and-so. My name is Oleg Kagan. I heard you had an opening for a cat wrangler. Is it okay if I tell you why I'm qualified for this position? And the person will be, if they're still looking at you, if they haven't walked away weirdly, they're like, yeah, you can tell me more. Well, I've been a cat wrangler for the last 25 years, and I have particular experience with Siamese cats, which I know that your company specializes in. So you see, a cover letter creates that kind of connection. Might give a little bit more information about what they're going to see next in your resume. A cover letter is that opportunity to put what they're going to see in your resume in context. It highlights the essential points that make you uniquely qualified for the job, and it, of course, shows off your writing skills. A cover letter got its name from the fact that before everything became digital, a cover letter would be placed on the top of a resume. So it's what a hiring manager would see first, like a letter of introduction, and then they would lift that, they would see your resume, see your references, it would be part of a regular application packet. So what should a cover letter do? Learning Express is one of our free library resources for job seekers and beyond. It offers test prep and so much more. Says that a cover letter should use the right salutation. A salutation is what comes at the beginning of the letter. Dear so-and-so. We're going to be talking more about salutations in the formatting part of this presentation. A cover letter should connect the dots. What that means is that it should make clear why you're applying for that job and introduce what they're going to see when they look at your resume. It should emphasize the employer's needs. It's part of connecting the dots. It demonstrates the research that you've done, that you understand why you're good for the job, and you're communicating that to the employer. Number 4, I'm going to repeat this one several times during this presentation because it is just one of those things that nobody has an excuse for anymore. And now when we're writing all our documents digitally, with spell check, with grammar check, with online services that check your spelling and grammar, your items should be free of spelling and grammar mistakes. And that goes for both your resume and your cover letter. And of course, number 3, similar to number 2, and number 5 is similar to number 3 and number 2. It should be specific to you and your job. Cover letter is introducing you, of course, but it's also has that key element of showing why you're good for that job. Why should that person continue towards reading your resume? Why should they open that other file? It should be specific to you and the job. That doesn't mean you have to have 50 different cover letters for 50 different jobs, but there should be some differences in each cover letter that you write because it should be unique to that employer. Moving on to who is the cover letter talking about? It's talking about you. Well, that's obvious. A cover letter complements your resume. It expands on what you can't cover in your resume. So in your resume, you might say increase sales by 25% within a period of 2 years. But what it can't say is you started with just you and that team, and then you mobilized that team and you motivated them. How did you do that? You used special, some kind of special incentive plan that you invented. They won't know that from just looking at your resume. You can't include every bit of narrative, every story of your work life that might be important in your resume, and you can't include it in your cover letter. So you choose the most relevant narratives. You tell a little story to get a person hooked, to make yourself stand out as the best candidate. And that's where the personal touch comes in. I mentioned before, when you're introducing yourself to somebody at a professional conference, you're not just a robot. You're not just a list of qualifications. You're a person with an actual voice. And because a cover letter is prose, you have the opportunity to craft the language in a way that represents you in the most professional way. And of course, you can share that you've done research about that company, that you know the job that you're applying for, that this isn't the 170th resume that you're submitting, even though it might be. A slightly unique cover letter tailored to that job will show that even though you've been applying for jobs for a long time, every job is one that you would like. When is a cover letter appropriate? So there are some times when cover letters just aren't what you do. There's certain jobs that it doesn't apply to. For instance, many government or civil service jobs don't even have a place in the application for you to put a cover letter. It just doesn't matter. You input your information in the application, you input your job information, and then you submit that. And then later you get an interview. If you're qualified, if you have all the regular qualifications, you get an interview. And then after the interview, then you're rated, you're placed in a band and go through the civil service process. Cover letters really don't have much of a place there. They aren't necessarily that useful for entry-level jobs, in the service sector and retail. Like if you're applying to work at Banana Republic, you probably don't need a cover letter. You just go and submit your resume or submit your resume online. If the job description says no cover letters, it's not applicable. But I would say for the most part, if there is a place to upload files, for those who don't know, put a file from your computer up onto a website. If you have the opportunity to put in a cover letter, it's better to do it. Even if it doesn't explicitly say that you should, even if you're not sure if you should, I would say in both of those situations, many other people might also not be sure if they should, and they might decide to go the lazy route and not put one in. And then consider if a hiring manager has 100 resumes or 100 application packets, and 10 of them have cover letters. If they're a person who wants to know more about their applicants, if they're not just, getting through, then they might bring those 10 cover letters to the top of their stack, because those people took the time to write a cover letter, and the hiring manager will learn a little bit more about them through those cover letters. So if it's at all possible to include a cover letter, absolutely do it. Where do you send it? It's an obvious answer. You send it to the employer. Usually on an online application, you place it in the same place that you upload your resume. Make sure to name the files your name, dash resume, your name dash cover letter. So it's clear that those two files go in the same application packet, that those also belong to you. And it's, if those files are downloaded onto the computer of the hiring manager and they need to forward it to somebody, then it'll have all the information. They don't have to keep opening the file to figure out whose it is. The file name will have your name or your last name and cover letter resume. If it's possible, and we mentioned salutation before, we're going to mention it now. We're going to mention salutation one more time later. It should be addressed to someone specific. If you can find out the hiring manager's name, if it's a small company especially, you definitely should try to find out who is in charge of the hiring. They use that person's name if you are writing to them for the first time, like if you haven't interacted with them before, if they don't know who you are, you usually put dear so-and-so colon. If you've talked to them before, I've read that you can, at that point, you can put dear so-and-so comma. But honestly, comma, colon, I don't think that's the most important thing in a cover letter, as long as you address it to somebody specific, if you can. I've heard and read that some people say dear hiring manager is fine. I think dear hiring manager is okay. Dear search committee, particularly if it's university, dear search committee. I read somewhere somebody said dear hiring authority. I've never seen that before. I probably wouldn't recommend that. That's where you send it. And then, of course, why are cover letters important? And this is something that we are telling you today over and over again, for the reason that many people find that cover letters are an extra thing that they have to do. And that is a challenge. You know, particularly if you're a little bit shy about your writing skills. But cover letters are important. They let you control how you make your first impression. Again, it's a cover letter. It's what people read first. It's how you introduce yourself. And so rather than having an impersonal introduction with just a resume, you start by sharing a little bit of yourself and telling maybe a good story about your work life. I mentioned the 100 applications and the 10 with cover letters. Cover letter has the potential to make you stand out. And I've read many, many stories online and in cover letter and job seeking books about situations where a cover letter was the thing that put one candidate over another when it came to calling them in for an interview. Because if you can demonstrate your unique, relevant qualities in that cover letter and as they relate to that specific job, then there would be no reason for them not to call you in for an interview, or at the very least, the probability of them calling you in increases. And the last two bullet points in this slide, it demonstrates your competence at business communication, because really, no matter what the job is, everyone values good writing. If you have writing skills, you might be applying for a job where that's a regular part of the job, but even if not, the fact that you have good writing skills puts you in a wider job category. You might get opportunities that somebody without good writing skills would not have. And now Anna Sylvia will tell you about the all-important formatting aspect of cover letters.
Thanks, Oleg.
Oh.
All right, so now you understand the important parts of a cover letter: the why, the when, the who, what is a cover letter, and all the reasons why you should write it. So now we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of formatting. So there are many different tips out there for how you should structure your cover letter, and different industries might have different tips or suggestions. We've been able to cover the most basic ones. These are the ones that if you stick to these, your cover letter is safe. So that's keeping it at 1-inch margins. You want to stick to the same format, so things like the same font, any kind of bullet points or anything like that that you used in your resume, you want to be consistent with that. So stick to the same format. Left align margins, don't indent your paragraphs, and use single space text with 2 line breaks between your paragraphs. So again, you'll find different tips out there, but I think this will make a nice, clean cover letter that you can send off to those employers. Next slide, please. So there are 10 parts of a cover letter, and we'll cover each of these 10 parts in more detail individually, but those would be your contact information, the recipient's contact information, the date, salutation, hook and opening paragraph, the primary message paragraph, the supporting paragraph, the closing paragraph, and lastly, complimentary close or closing. Now let's look at the contact information. So for your contact information, you want to have your full name. You want to include your address, your phone number, your email address, and your LinkedIn profile if you have one. A note on your phone number, you want to make sure that your voicemail is set to receive messages. The last thing you want to do is have a full voicemail box that your employers loved your cover letter, but they can't contact you because your voicemail is full. So you want to make sure that that's all taken care of. And that should be easy since you know your contact information better than anyone else. Now, when it comes to the recipient's information, you want to include the full name of the recipient spelled correctly. If you, and Oleg touched on this before, you are sending this to someone, so you want to make sure that you find out who that person is. And sometimes that information is really easy to find. It's included in the job posting. It'll say send resume to, it'll say, and it'll include the name of the hiring manager or the recruiter. So you'll have that information available to you. Sometimes that, as well as the job recipient's title and the company address, the name is pretty easy to find. It's more likely than not that you know the company's name, but some of the information isn't always easy to find. So if you can't find the recipient's name, if it's just a big company and they just posted it on a job listing board, then you can try to call the company. You can call the HR department and let them know that you are writing a cover letter and you'd like to know who is the appropriate person to address it to and who to send it to. And you want to make sure that you get the name correctly, have them spell it out to you, repeat it back to them, because the last thing you want to do is misspell their name or their title or how they go by. So if that's not available to you, if you're not having any luck with the HR department, maybe try their website and try their HR department's team that might be on there. And lastly, LinkedIn. If that fails, like Oleg mentioned, there are several different ways that you can address your cover letter to. Dear search committee, dear hiring manager. There are many different ways that you can address a cover letter to a person, to someone if you don't know who exactly. So those are kind of safe ones. I would maybe stay away from hi, hello, or even to whom it may concern. I know that was very popular once upon a time, but now it's sort of seen as outdated. Next, the date and the salutation. So you want to use the standard format, just like we have it spelled out. So November 29th, 2022. And then you want to, again, address it to a person if you know that person's name. And if, again, there aren't a specific person, then dear hiring manager or search committee would be a good bet. Next slide, please. Now we're going to get into the meat of the cover letter, so to speak. So your cover letter is your objective to explain and show why you're interested in that particular position. And you want to start off strong. So we all remember what a hook sentence is from English class, right? How to write a strong and persuasive essay so that the person reading it will be interested in the rest of what the cover letter has to say. So a hook can be a story, it can be a statistic, something that's meant to grab their attention so that they're interested in the person that is writing the cover letter. Once you've done that, you're going to continue to inform them about how you learned about the position. That can be a job posting. An example of that would be, I learned about the position on LinkedIn, on your LinkedIn profile, or from a friend who happens to work for the company. Just let them know a brief sentence about how you learned about the position. Next paragraph, slide, please. And then your primary message is going to emphasize their needs. Remember that you're writing this cover letter. You are showcasing who you are as a potential employee, but employers want to know that you understand their needs and that you are going to meet those needs. So focus on why you're a good fit for the organization and how all of your experience, all of your skills, your qualifications are best suited to meet those needs. You want to stick to really keywords, action words, things like achieved, established, marketed. Talk about your experience and the things that you have achieved in your prior experiences and tie those in. Remember, you're connecting the dots. So tie those in, their needs, your skills, your qualifications, and what you've accomplished that is specific to those needs. And then use the job description itself. Go back. I would suggest even writing your cover letter side by side with that job posting so that you pick up on those keywords and they're automatically there for you. So each industry, of course, has its very own keyword, so their very own keywords. So you want to emphasize that in your cover letter so that they know that you know what they need, you understand the industry, and that's all sprinkled in your primary message. So make sure that you include that in that paragraph. Next slide, please.
Hannah, Sylvia.
Yes.
Guess what? We have a typo on this slide. We should have, you know what we should have done? We should have had somebody else proofread this presentation.
Very good point. I still can't see it.
It's in the first bullet. Emphasis their needs.
Oh, wow.
And that
Yeah.
just goes to show that you can look at something over and over and over again yourself.
Yeah.
But sometimes that one little thing, emphasis, spell check wouldn't catch that because it's an actual word.
Yeah.
But had we had somebody else with fresh eyes look at this presentation, then we'd have caught that. That's just one more reminder. Have somebody else look at
we did it
your
on
cover
purpose.
letters.
On purpose.
We want people to think. We want people to think that.
Yeah.
Not at all. Not on purpose at all. We should have had somebody proofread this.
Yeah,
All
that's
right,
a very good point.
let me move on to the next slide so we can hide our embarrassment. All right, there you go.
Thank you. All right, now your supporting paragraph. Now this is your chance to show why you're interested in the position. You're sort of going to rave about the company, include relevant details about the organization. So if you're someone who follows them, so LinkedIn, maybe they have a LinkedIn profile where they're constantly posting about their achievements and their accomplishments, here's your time to shine. Let them know that you have followed them. And that, again, plays into their needs. You understand where they're at in the industry and what they're trying to accomplish. And then once again, how would your experiences bring value to the company in relation to their products or objectives? So a good way to sort of do your research, this is the part where you can show them that your attention to detail, you've done your research, you know where they're headed, you're excited about their products, you're excited about where they're headed in the future, and this is why you're interested. You can let them know where exactly you learned about them. Something that you could say is, I attended a conference and I saw a presentation where you explained that in the next 10 years, this product that you're going to launch is going to change the industry, and you can include those examples. And then you would then emphasize your ability to understand and bring your skills and your expertise, and why that's exactly what aligns with your own values within the industry and your own values as an employee. So this is really your chance to support the overall paragraph. So I think in a lot of ways, it's one of the most important paragraphs that you really want to spend some time on getting those details right. Next slide, please. And then lastly, once you've done all of that, once you've had your primary message, you've hooked them in, you reeled them in, they're reading everything, they're excited about who they're reading about, you want to close it off strongly briefly with a simple thank you for your time, and then be enthusiastic. Don't lose that momentum in the closing. Show that you're very excited to move the conversation forward. Summarize again why you're a good fit, why everything that you've talked about and explained would position you to really be an asset to their company. And mention that if you are sending this in snail mail, sort of, then mention that you're including your resume, and that your resume can kind of further, again, these are complementary to each other, the resume and the cover letter. And the great thing about your cover letter is that you've gone into more detail with the things that you talked about in your resume. So mention that you're enclosing that as well. not really necessary if you are kind of sending this online, but you still want to end in a way that's going to leave a really good impression. So we'll include how you can end that with those salutations in the next slide. So with a formal salutation, and you want to include your signature. For paper, you can sign with blue or black ink. Those are sort of standard colors. And then type your full name. For email, a typed signature of your full name is appropriate. And then examples of those salutations that are appropriate would be sincerely, regards, best regards, kind regards, and respectfully. So that's how you would like to end your cover letter. And then once you've done that, have someone proofread it, and we'll get into those tips a little bit later. And then it's sent, ready to be sent out to those employers.
Thanks, Anna Sylvia. This formatting bit is probably one of the most important things about cover letters. We got content and formatting of equal importance. Now, we're getting towards the end of our presentation, so if you have questions, do put them in the Q&A. And while you do that, I'm going to cover the best practices for cover letters. Many people have heard of applicant tracking system, or ATS. An ATS is essentially a type of database that also screens candidates. There are different types of applicant tracking systems. Recruiters, for instance, use an ATS as a kind of Rolodex for the employees or for the people that they're trying to place. So you might get into a recruiter's ATS because they found you on LinkedIn. They may have interviewed you, did kind of an exploratory interview, and when you're in their ATS and they see an application or they see an opportunity for you, they might look up people who are tagged in a certain way and then send you for that job. Applicant tracking systems also screen applications for many big corporations who are getting hundreds, thousands of resumes. Now, I'm not an expert on applicant tracking systems, and there are also many different ones. So I'm not going to tell you the secret tips for bypassing or getting through applicant tracking systems. But the most common way to do that, the most maybe common sense way to do that, is to look closely at the job description and to add the keywords from the job description, particularly when it comes to the items that the job requires. Put them in to your cover letter and or your resume. Use similar or the same language so that the ATS, which is a computer, a person might read it and go, oh yeah, of course. But a computer might be looking for very specific words, and the people without those words will not get through that screening process, and the people that have those words will get through that process. I'm going to say it just one more time. I promise. One more time. Check spelling and grammar. Ask somebody to proofread. Now, I've talked about uploading files in the where of the 5 W's, and related to uploading files is to use standard file types with both cover letters and resumes. And the one I most recommend is to use a PDF. A PDF stands for Portable Document Format. This is a file type that preserves the formatting, the font, the spacing of a document, no matter which computer it's viewed on. And so because of that, it's really convenient for sending structured documents like a resume or a cover letter. You can export files into the PDF format in through Google Docs or Microsoft Word. And so even as you have your PDFs, send them or upload them into the web application that way. You can also use .x, which is Microsoft Word, the Microsoft Word format. You can save files as .x using Google Docs. But if you're using those two pieces of software, I would recommend just doing a PDF. That way your file can't be edited by somebody on the other end. It's going to maintain its integrity and format. Another best practice is to tailor your language to the industry of the job that you're applying for. This is particularly important for people who are making a career pivot from two seemingly unrelated industries. You might be doing similar functions in one industry, but it might be called something completely different in the other industry. And that's why in that situation, it behooves you to have informational interviews with people from the industry that you're trying to switch to, so that you can know what language they use, and also that you can have somebody that you can perhaps ask to proofread your resume, not for spelling or grammar errors, but for understanding, or for things like GPA. There are some professions where if you just exiting university, you put your GPA, your grade point average, on your resume. I know my friend who was an accountant. He left college. They request, that seems to be a normal thing in that industry, to put your GPA. In the library world, where Anna, Sylvia, and I are, a GPA is not at all something that you put on a resume. Tailoring your language to the industry is also something that a resume writer, you don't get a cover letter writer, but a resume writer can help you, can translate that language. Now, the final thing here is cover letters have very few mysteries. We've been talking now for about half an hour about how to write a cover letter. There's a lot of repetition. The way to make a cover letter is not that complex. Resumes, on the whole, are not that complex. There's only one mystery in the job search, and that is, what is it that that employer wants? And job description should say that, but it may not always be accurate. So don't be put off if you write wonderful cover letters and they're, for some reason, not getting you a specific job that you really hoped you would, because you never know what's happening on the other end. Maybe it's something that has nothing at all to do with you. So let that mystery be a mystery, and you do your best when it comes to putting together your application materials. All right. And now Anna Sylvia is going to take us out by going through some library resources.
Yes, we have many different resources. We have, of course, books, both physical and ebooks. And we have a screenshot of just a few of the many books on cover letters that you can check out from our catalog. Just type in cover letters on our catalog and you'll be able to find what you're looking for. We also have online learning databases, which include LinkedIn Learning, Gale Courses, Learning Express, BrainFuse, Job Now. And then if you are interested in learning more about different career programs, resumes, interview tips, and specific industry type of advice, then you can always check our programs out. Go to lacountylibrary.org/learn, and you'll find more of our databases, and then you can also find programs that we have on our events calendar, and including Work Ready, which will have more programs related to career readiness in our series. And now I can go ahead and show us how to use Learning Express and Job Now. Both of these databases have a resume and cover letter career tools. So these are really useful for you for both resume and for many different things, not just resumes and cover letters. But because this is cover letters, we're going to show you how you can use them to really write a well-written and well-crafted cover letter. So I'm going to exit out of here. All right, give me one moment to pull this all up. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Okay, let me know. Can you see Learning Express?
Yep, it's up there.
Okay, perfect. So this is Learning Express. This is one of our databases that we mentioned. It's also was really helpful for us when we came up with this program. So in order to access these databases, you want to start on our website, and you can go to Learn, like I mentioned, and they're right there. So you can just click right on them and it'll take you to the database. So let's explore. Oh, I thought I was signed in, not signed in. So you want to make sure that you have an account, and you'll need a library card for both of these databases in good standing to use them. And you want to use an account for these because you can save your progress, as you'll be able to see with Learning Express. You can save any courses that you take, and any ebooks that you read, which this is a really rich database. And I've actually done a video on that, which we can include in our follow-up email that gives you more information about it. For now, we'll just cover cover letters. So if you want to start in, well, this is just the dashboard. Let me give you a brief overview of that. And it'll save, because I want to show you that it'll save your progress. So when it comes to cover letters, it has both a tutorial and it has a really cool tool called a career tool called Build Your Letters, build your resumes and your job letters. So it will allow you to create your cover letter in two different ways. You can create one from scratch, or you can upload yours and edit it, and it'll kind of compare based off sample resumes. So if you would like to start your very own new cover letter, you would click on, I want to create a new cover letter, or you can upload yours and edit it from an existing one. So let's go ahead and start a new one. So I'm just going to type in just the basic information to get us started. Cover letter, you don't need to include anything in the description. And then you want to specify that you would like to create a letter from scratch, or you can create one from a sample. So we can create one from scratch. And then the great thing, if you did choose to make one from a sample letter, is that it will show you the different things that you should include in your cover letter. So here you go, edit and use a sample. So there's that sample if you wanted to, and you can specify if you want a mid-job level seeker, an intern, and that's all. That'll show you that as you're going through that. So I definitely suggest that you log into the database and check it out, because I'm just giving you a brief overview, but there are many ways that you can use this to really enhance your cover letter. So there's that select a sample letter that I mentioned earlier. All right, and so that is Learning Express. The next one that I would like to show you is BrainFuse Job Now. So this is what BrainFuse Job Now looks like. So you'll need that library card number and the PIN. I've already logged in. Hopefully it hasn't logged me out. And then here is the landing page, and Job Now is great, not just for job seekers, but it's also really great for students, as you can see. So this is another one of those databases that is really rich with a lot of helpful resources. So you can scroll down now to the Job Now center, and that's also available to you on the main menu bar. So here, this one is really great because Job Now has live job coaches. So real people at the other end that are going to help you customize and give you feedback on anything that you write. So it has a resume writer template, sort of kind of like similar to Learning Express. But if you really need help with your cover letter, then it has the writing lab and live tutoring. So you can attach your documents, and then a real person, an expert, will get back to you and let you know how you should edit it and revise it. And then that's another great way of having another person proofread your work as well. And one thing that I do want to mention about the live job coach is that they are only available during 3 p.m. and 10 p.m. So log in during those hours if you need a specific question answered. If you're working on your cover letter or your resume outside of those hours, you can always send a question and they will respond to you. So this is where you would be able to send a question in. Just go back to the home page and then send a question and they will respond to you. So that is, again, brief overview of those two databases, but they're really great. I highly recommend you check them out. This could be your assistance, your proofreader, and it's a great way of just starting from scratch. And sometimes just picking a template off the internet can feel really overwhelming. But in the case of Learning Express, for example, it has templates for you that you can really look at and use to craft your own cover letter. So that's what I wanted to show you today. Let me stop sharing. Okay, and I think we are on to the Q&A portion of our presentation.
We are almost there. Actually, I wanted to just bring up one more thing in our presentation. So actually, on this slide here, as you can see, there are book resources as well. And the really neat thing about cover letters is that similar to resumes where you get books like, a million great resumes, here, this is just a simple search for for cover letters. And within here, you can see that there are numerous books with just examples of cover letters, 201 killer cover letters, 202 great cover letters, 101 best cover letters, gallery of best cover letters. Between just these 4 books, you probably have like 1,000 cover letters that you can look at, and not just look at. I mean, you can take language from those cover letters. You can use the kind of rhetorical flair that the example cover letters have there. If you're not by nature an exciting writer, then uh, you don't have to be Ernest Hemingway or some other big writer in order to write a great cover letter. You can use the examples of what other people have done to make your cover letter even better. And so if you're a little bit nervous about the craft of putting the cover letter together, have no fear. You can see many, many examples of other people's cover letters from different industries, different levels, all of that. And of course, you can, let me get rid of these annotations. I thought they would disappear, but they haven't. There they are. If you have questions about cover letters or any other research query, questions about the library itself, logistics, when we're open, all of that, you can give a call to your local library Monday through Friday, 9 to 6. You can text the library Monday through Friday, text 12 to 6 p.m. You can email us. There's a contact form at the web address down below there, lacountylibrary.org/contact us. And we also have a live chat feature called Instant Librarian, Monday through Friday, 12 to 6 p.m. So if you have your research questions and you don't want to have a voice chat, if you don't want to go face-to-face, if you're just available right there online and you want an immediate response, Instant Librarian, Monday through Friday, 12 to 6, lacountylibrary.org/contact us. And now we are ready for the Q&A. So somebody mentioned actually that the BrainFuse link is not working. I don't know if anybody else has clicked the BrainFuse link in the chat. I just click it right now, and sometimes it has an issue with authentication. My recommendation is to try a different browser because that has worked for me in the past. I had tried it on Chrome and for some reason it didn't go in, and then I tried Microsoft Edge and it worked just fine.
Yeah.
So give it a shot to try a different browser. And if not, then email and we'll help you out with tech support for that. We can let BrainFuse know whether it's working or not. And if they have an issue, they can fix it. All right. Well, let me get you some questions, Anna Sylvia. So the first question is dear sir or madam okay as a salutation?
Yeah, I actually researched that question as well. And what I was able to find is it's sort of outdated. You want to definitely try to find the name of the person or stick to sort of generic terms. That's what I was able to find. One thing that I will say about cover letters is that there's a lot of information, and sometimes one person says this, one person says that. Maybe look at samples from, if you have those kinds of really detailed questions, I would say look at samples from your industry if you can. But overall, different experts in the field say that, to whom it may concern, those are sort of outdated. But, do your research and see what you're comfortable with.
I don't think that anybody's going to throw your letter away if you have dear sir, madam.
Yeah.
But it's not, it may not be the most up to date. If you're sending a generic email, what do you do about your salutation? and your cover letter at that point.
If you're sending a generic email,
Yeah, I think maybe if you're yeah, I'm not sure because there wasn't more information in the question here, but I would say that maybe if you're querying about a job, or maybe if it's a generic email address. So if the address is like hiring at,
I see.
abccore.com, you don't have the person's name. It's just a generic email address. What would you do about a salutation at that point?
I would probably do the same as I would with a cover letter. Maybe dear hiring manager, dear search committee. Those, they're pretty safe to use because they can encompass whoever's reading that. So I would probably stick to those terms as well.
Mhm. And this person also made a really good comment in the chat earlier, talking about if the job description says no calls, please, when it comes to doing research for finding out if it says no calls, you don't call them.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody wants to hire somebody who doesn't follow directions. There's something that's written explicitly in the job description. It's probably good to follow that advice. There are other ways to research, and Anna Sylvia, you mentioned a few of them, how to research who is doing the hiring. But in the end, if you have to go through, you have to call a private eye to figure out who's doing the hiring for a company, just put dear hiring manager and don't worry about it. If they're making it so difficult to find that person, it might be multiple people. There may be a lot of reasons for that. But yeah, just put dear hiring manager.
Yeah, I would say that's the advice of calling is if they haven't said that, then maybe,
Mhm.
I don't think it would hurt to call and I think they would be understanding and appreciate maybe that you're taking the time to know who to send it to really be specific. But yeah, like Oleg said, if they've made it clear they don't want calls, then don't call.
And you can also see when you call them, you can see what they're like when they answer the phone. At least what that one person is like when they answer the phone. You know,
Mhm.
if you're calling a professional, reputable office and somebody picks up the phone and goes, yeah, then maybe I don't know. Do you actually want to apply to work there?
Right.
If they don't if they're not able to answer the phone professionally, or if you call them and just ask a simple, it's not a crazy question to ask. Say, hey, I'm applying. My name is so and so. Applying for this job. I'm just curious I would like to address my letter. Who's the hiring manager for that position? And if they're rude to you for some reason, then that might be a red flag about this company, because that is not a weird question at all.
No.
They can say, they can tell you, politely, hey, we don't actually give that information out. Okay, fine, we'll just put hiring manager. But they might have to put you on hold or something. It's fine. It's no big
Mhm.
deal. They'll find out who it is for that specific position.
Right.
I mean, is there anything to be gained by duplicating a submission by snail mail?
I don't think so. I think if email is an option for you, then that's going to get there quickly. And read the directions. If they want you to send it, then definitely send it by snail mail. But generally, most companies nowadays are fine with email and attaching documents. So I don't think it would be any extra. Maybe it would just be more work for you to have to send it by snail mail as well. But again, each job employees will have specific instructions. But for the most part, one avenue I think is safe, is a good bet.
Yeah, I agree with you on in the sense that it does create more work for you as a job seeker. If you're applying for a lot of jobs, it's really hard to scale also sending snail mail submissions. If you're already spending a lot of time filling out the job application on their website, or sending an email, sending a submission by regular mail can be challenging. It just takes a lot of time. That said, is there anything to be lost by submitting also by snail mail? Probably not. If it's some kind of really edgy media company, they might think it's quaint that they get a letter, if they don't get a lot of mail. But if it's just your standard old company, kind of a regular organization, I don't think anybody's going to look negatively on somebody submitting an application by snail mail as well. In fact, I would say that they might see that and go, oh, they'll at least recognize, if it gets to that hiring manager, they'll at least recognize the name if they see it in the email. Go, oh, that was the person who sent the letter. So in some ways, it could also get you noticed. It's just a matter of whether you actually want to spend the time. If you're applying for 50 jobs, you want to spend the time to send that out.
Right.
All right, let's see. Next question. Do you have suggestions on how to find professional resume writers?
I would say maybe LinkedIn is a good place to find professionals of all industries. So that one might be a good place to look for a professional. I've personally never used one, so I wouldn't be able to tell you where I found one or recommend any specific company. But that would be a good place to start. Brainfuse, Brainfuse has that writing lab.
They do have a resume review service too,
Yeah,
but not a professional, but they're not going to write it for you.
right. Yeah, no, they'll just help you out. But yeah, no, I'm sorry about not having a specific place or a person for you. But I would say if you really want to find someone, LinkedIn is a good place to start.
Yeah, the LinkedIn, it would make sense because so many people are looking for jobs on LinkedIn, and it's a career-oriented social media platform. So the resume writers, I mean, they're going to have a profile there because that's where their target audience is. I would say that if that a way that you can also just Google professional resume writer if it's important that person is in your area, professional resume writer, Los Angeles or wherever you are. One criteria that I would consider, particularly if your industry is something that's a somewhat niche industry, is to try to find a resume writer that has some experience with that industry, that can speak the language of that industry, because that's going to, like I mentioned in the best practices slide, if they can't understand the words that you're using, to communicate that you've done the functions that they know about, then it's not going to be an effective way to get an interview. So if it's specific niche industry, you might do resume writer, so and so industry. Those might be
Mhm.
helpful as search tips.
Yeah.
Let's see. Will a cover letter be necessary if emailing the company or job recruiter? Should we attach it to the email or just merge the cover letter within the email message? Actually, it's interesting. I just read about this in a cover letter book, and what they said about it was that you should just put it in the body of the email. But one thing you might consider is just making it a little bit shorter, just more like what people would expect from an email. Cover letter, you're writing on a paper, it should be 1 page long. On the screen, it should be something that about fits a screen. I mean, it depends if somebody's looking at a cell phone, it's a different kind of screen, but it should probably be either 1 page long or a little bit shorter. There's certain things you may not need, like you don't need to include the person's address, your address. You're emailing them already, you're in direct communication. So there's certain things that you can remove. The salutations all the same, closing is all the same. So no, yeah, just put it into the body of the email. It's the cover letter. So it's really, if you attach the resume, that's probably the closest to the traditional way of using cover letters, where it's your letter of introduction. I might think that I'm thinking about it now as I'm speaking about it, that you might also include the cover letter as an attachment in addition to putting in the body of the email, just because if they want to share it with somebody else, like if they're going to need to print it out or something for some reason, depending on what their process is, it is slightly more complicated. It's not complicated to print out an email, of course, but you're going to have all that stuff on top. You're going to have all that stuff on the bottom. It's not going to be as clean as if you have a PDF of the cover letter down below also. And you can mention, my resume is attached, and I've also attached a copy of this cover letter.
Mm.
Did you have anything to add, Anna Sylvia?
No, that's interesting. I would have thought that. Yeah, I guess yeah, it makes sense though. If that's the kind of the subject or the topic of the email,
Yeah.
then yeah. But I think I was gonna add maybe include it in an attachment as well, just because you never know. And just maybe having that PDF as a backup would be safe. But that's interesting. I didn't think of that. I would my immediate thought would have been to include it in an attachment, but
Mhm.
it just depends. But that's a good point.
Yeah, it doesn't, there's not much more work other than copying, pasting, to
Mhm.
put it, delete a few things, to put it into the body of the email. So I figure you're not losing anything by putting it in there.
Yeah.
Here's a question. What other types of workshops do you offer? Boy, I like that question. If you're at this workshop and you want to know more, then maybe we're doing a good job. I hope so. But we offer all sorts of, I mean, when it comes to work related workshops, work ready, I mean, we had, like I mentioned, at this point, we've done 50 or 60 work ready programs since December of 2020. Um, we offer all sorts of work-related workshops, and there's a survey at the end of this presentation. The last question of that survey is this very thing. What would you like us to cover? Because we use that information from those surveys to create classes for the future. If everybody's interested in soft skills or some kind of communication topic, or interested, we've done interviews already, but if you're interested in a specific issue with interviews, or if you want to want us to do more interviewing classes, let us know, and we'll find the people, and we'll get them to present about interviewing for you. So, we're here to serve you. So we offer a lot of different kind of workshops in the library generally, outside of work related. I mean, all sorts of things. We have computer classes, we offer the work related, we offer the fun stuff like gardening. The library offers many, many different types of classes. All right. Any opinion or rule of thumb regarding the use of color in a resume, like highlighting a sidebar item?
I personally, I would just stick to just plain text. Keep it consistent. For most industries, that's kind of, I haven't really come across samples or templates that have really sort of, maybe in the art world, I'm not sure. I haven't really seen many of those, but and those maybe wouldn't require cover letters now that I'm thinking about it. But who knows? But I would say stick to kind of just a regular letter, black, that kind of formatting, I think would be good. Maybe well, yeah, I would say that. What do you think, Oleg?
I agree. For most resumes, unless you're a designer or there's some special reason for your resume to be beautiful, in the sense of like aesthetically different from what a standard issue resume looks like, then the use of color probably isn't the best, especially if it might be printed out, and then that color, they may be printed out on a black and white printer, and then you're basically going to lose that, you spent effort putting in the color there, and it might not show up properly, make your text not show up properly. Um, Again, I would say that if it's some kind of like a plain basic color, it's probably not a bad thing to do, but the safest bet is just to keep it simple, both with the fonts, the formatting, the, fancy paper, all that stuff. Just keep it simple. All right. How much is too short or long for a cover letter?
A page is definitely, I think, the standard. Yeah, one page. Your paragraphs, a few sentences. Take a look at those samples and see what I think the primary one, the hook in the primary will probably be your shortest paragraph, and then the rest, maybe 3 or 4 sentences. Keep those. You don't want to fill the page up either. You want to keep it one page, but you don't want to overload them with information. Really try to highlight those specific examples that you can give them, and keep it kind of just a mid-sized paragraph for those supporting the supporting paragraph. And yeah, I would say look at those samples, see the length of the paragraphs, but keep it to one page for sure.
Mhm. Yeah, one page is the standard. Sometimes with resumes, depending on which your industry you're applying to, how long your work history is, 2 pages is okay. And if it's a CV, which is a curriculum vitae, which is mostly for academic, then they can run many, many pages. So resume, people say 1 page, but it can be 1 or 2 pages. For a cover letter, 1 page. It's usually about 300 words, just because that's about a page is about 300 words. And if you keep regular 12-point font with 1-inch margins, and if it's 300 words, if your cover letter is like a quarter of that, then it's going to be that's like 100 words is like 1.5 paragraphs, maybe. That's too short. I mean, you're not telling them much. And just having the stuff where we talk about where you found out about the job is already like 2 or 3 sentences. So just with that, you're already got the ball rolling. But there's some generic things that you put in a cover letter that will make that space. Now, if you're having a lot of trouble coming up with things, filling that page, you can also, and I've seen this in example cover letters, you can also do bullet points. Not the whole thing, not, you might do like a paragraph, a small paragraph, some bullet points, maybe 2 columns of bullet points, and then another paragraph, and you're done. Where the bullet points would be the kind of thing that you would mention. You elaborate on something in your resume, maybe 1 or 2 sentences, but you don't have to have the stress of go, oh man, I need another fat paragraph. Bullet points are maybe a little bit less intimidating for you. And actually, probably not something that's going to be negatively construed by the hiring manager.
Right. I think this is where the few times I've written cover letters, I think I struggled with like trying to fit everything all in one page and trying to condense it all. So I understand that it can be like, how long should I keep this? I want to talk about this. I want to talk about that. But yeah, keep it, just really target those important things. You don't need to write an entire, that's the great thing about having this in complementary with your resume is that you can really bullet point more things. And so you really just want to touch on those important parts.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm with you there online, and having too much writing going, oh no, how do I shrink this down to a page? But I know there's also people who, maybe nervous about writing and they're like, well, how do I make this longer? What do I even put in? But everybody has stories. Everybody has, even if you don't have a lot of work experience, even if your work experience is somewhere else, even if you have a large employment gap, you have things to include in your cover letter. You're applying for that job for a reason. You're qualified. You can do it. So think about that. Think about what you can bring to that company. Why you're the best person for the job, because you are the best person for the job, right?
Yes.
So we had a few other questions in the chat here. Do you know when laptops will be available for the work ready programs? I've seen and called, but I was told they were unavailable for the Lancaster library. So that's a great question. We started with 200 laptops. They get checked out quite often. So that is a challenge for some people, depending on the library also, to get laptops. You can always see if they're available via our website. If you search the catalog for work ready, I think it's work ready laptops, you can see the list of where they're available. Now, we also have other laptops. So work ready laptops circulate for 6 weeks. We also have other laptops, just regular old laptops, not work ready related, and those circulate for 3 weeks. But there's more of those, so you can also just get those laptops. Both laptops function the same way. The only difference at this point is the circulation time. And Anastasia just posted the link to where I think the general laptop
Yeah.
link there, so you can see what's available. Somebody mentioned in the chat more interview classes. Sounds great. Yeah, the interview classes are really good, and we get a lot of people coming to those because so many people are nervous about interviews, and for good reason. It's hard. Public speaking is hard, and I think people are nervous about speaking to a lot of people, but I think for me, it's more nerve-wracking to speak to 3 people than it is to speak to like 5,000. I don't
Mm.
I mean, I don't know why, but I feel like they're there. They're looking at you. So I always over prepare for that kind of stuff. But yeah, definitely more interview classes.
Yeah.
Which basic skills of computer class can I learn and where can I find? Okay, so for basic computer skills, actually we have a virtual class coming up Thursday at 11 o'clock, computers, the very basics. And we have a lot of computer classes on our YouTube channel. So you can always go to those. And so if you go to our website, lacountylibrary.org, click virtual events on the right-hand side. And if you go to Thursday, there's actually also an in-person computer class that's being offered at the Leland Weaver Library, also on computer basics at 11 o'clock. So if you're near the Weaver Library, and you'd have to look at where, if that's close to where you live, you can go to that. You can register for that also on our web, same place, virtual events, or click the events tab on the right. It says look for those computer classes. You can definitely get those. Let's see. Would you guys be willing to do the presentation for our program students? yes, please email us. We would be happy to help. I'm going to put my email address in the chat. Okay. So last call, if anybody has any questions, throw them into the Q&A, throw them into the chat. We're still here for a few minutes.
Mhm.
And if you have a question afterward that you think of, that you for some reason couldn't type into the chat or just didn't have in mind, you can always ask us questions afterward. I'll send up a follow-up email with the link to this presentation with our slides. You can, feel free to respond to that email. I'm a nice person, I think, right? Maybe.
Yeah, Alex is very
Sometimes.
responsive to your questions, so definitely, and you can email me as well.
Yeah, we'll be
Either of
your and Sylvia will be CC'd also in that email, so you can reply all, and we'll both see your responses. One more thing before we go, I mentioned earlier that we always send out a survey. The survey should pop up automatically when you exit the Zoom, but I'm going to post it here if you're really keen on filling out the survey. If you hated this class, if you love this class, if you were somewhere in between, we want to hear your feedback. We really appreciate it. It's what helps us build a program that's useful and relevant to you. And as I mentioned, let us know what you're interested in learning more about. We're going to have another Work Ready class in January. We're going to have another one in February. And in March, we're going to start to have weekly classes. So you're going to have a whole lot more work-related stuff. And we really want to cover what you're interested in. So do let us know that in the survey. Anna Sylvia, thank you so much for co-presenting this program. I don't think it would have been the same without you.
No
And
problem.
to everyone out there, thanks for being here. Good afternoon, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.